So we got a new leak that everyone's flipping out about, and that is that Warzone 3 will essentially be gone when MW4 comes out if Verdansk doesn't do well. Here's a tweet from Ghost to Hope. It basically says, one of the lines that he references with this tweet is, no Warzone 3 if Verdansk fails to retain current returning players. And this is kind of a big deal because there's so many people in the community who don't really know what this means, and myself included, but there's a few different routes I think they'll go based off this type of information, based off Call of Duty's track record. Because if you guys have been following Call of Duty for a while, it's become more about the money and less about the players. That's kind of just how it feels. Maybe not from the developmental side, but from Activision, Xbox, that's definitely what they're after, which means driving revenue through microtransactions and whatever in-game shadiness to get people to spend money. That's just part of the product. On top of SBMM and EOMM to keep players on and spending money. Regardless of that, what do I actually think this could mean? So first of all, there's a few different options that they can go down. Option A is in 2026 when that game comes out. Obviously this year is set to be another Treyarch title, which before we actually get a name, we'll call BO7 because that's just how it goes, 6 to 7. Whatever they end up deciding to call it, 6.2 or remastered of BO2 or whatever they're going to call it, doesn't really matter. But what happens is the following year when there would be an integration, that would be Warzone 3. If the game's not in a good state because of Verdansk, then we're going to end up probably worst case scenario for Warzone, they would just shut down the servers completely. You won't be able to play the game and those types of things. I think this is highly improbable and probably wouldn't happen just based off the track record. The only time we saw this ever happen in Call of Duty is one of the Chinese versions of Call of Duty, which got shut down. But I don't know what the deal was with that. And then when we went from Warzone 1 to 2, which essentially that was a transition. So they took that game offline, and then we got Warzone 2, which ended up having a host of issues. And I'm seeing a lot of comments regarding this, like, good, I hope it fails and all that stuff. They can get back to focusing on multiplayer and zombies, which is also kind of a silly statement for people to make. Because there would be almost no improvement and virtually no improvement in those areas. It's not like they would say, you know what, we're going to just take Raven and all those resources we have over there and put them on multiplayer and put them on zombies or whatever the case is. Generally, what would happen is the same thing that happened when Xbox bought Activision. And that is there's a little bit of overlap with people and they'll just do tons of layoffs. So if a job is duplicated where there's too many people, they'll just go ahead and get rid of those redundant jobs we've just gotten rid of, and then those people will be out in the market trying to apply to other locations of other companies. Again, I think that is the least likely scenario where they'll just shut down Warzone entirely, because I don't know if you guys have ever played with randoms. I know they have the party up feature and all these other things that are busted at the moment, but generally all the people I play with are random. I don't play with my streamer friends I know or whatever. I just play with random people, and I have yet to load up where someone on my team isn't using a paid skin. So, and not just the battle pass, like actual paid skin. They'll be using the black cell. They'll be using the $30 this skin or that skin. The Ninja Turtle skins are pretty common right now. When you queue up, there are paid skins. So I going back to what I originally said earlier, them trying to make money for the shareholders, be kind of weird for them to just cut that leg off and no longer make money from that. The next one that I think is even is probable, like if the game isn't doing good, there's no reason for them to continue supporting it. I think they would just keep the servers on and then the game would stop receiving content. So if you've already bought content, if you play the game regularly, you'll still just be able to play it in whatever version of the game it is. And at that time, it'd probably be Verdansk or maybe Avalon if that's still in the works, even though there's been leaks that is essentially scrapped for BR. And that'll probably be something that's more for like Outbreak for zombies or Ground War style or Fire Team. Something for Treyarch that's not necessarily Battle Royale, or who knows, maybe even DMZ will be part of that. I don't know. Regardless, it'll just exist and you can just go play it, but there won't be future content. There won't be sync content with the current title. There won't be any of those types of things. And that would be pretty bad for them and people who play the game, just because it would probably be longer matchmaking, all kinds of other issues related to that. and people would just kind of have to move on to other games, which a lot of people already have. But between now and the next 2 years, there's going to be tons of games that come out. Whether Battlefield's Battle Royale comes out hot, that'll hopefully be good, or other extraction shooters and all these other games that are coming out at a regular basis that are essentially trying to take up that market share on top of Grand Theft Auto, which will be a huge competitor in the market regardless of that. What happens with Warzone. And then the next, and that would just essentially be kind of the graveyard for the game, kind of how DMZ is currently, or Modern Warfare Zombies, or even like previous content ever. It's just more kind of making a reference to a free-to-play aspect of the game. The next one is probably the one I most would want to happen, and that's that they would separate COD from the yearly release. Let Warzone be standalone, and then the devs will be able to work on that vision of the game to get it where Warzone players want it without negatively impacting or having any influence on multiplayer or zombie systems, and vice versa. What this would mean that we would still get seasonal content. It would be geared specifically towards Warzone, and probably work in tandem with the current game, but it wouldn't be a full-on integration. I think this would be the best case scenario, and it would be standalone where they could just take care of their business, not have to work with Treyarch to decide on certain things, or IW to decide certain things, or Sledgehammer to decide. They would just be Raven all in on it, and then they would have it set up. So, you know, it kind of just depends on how they want to do it, but I think that's probably the best option, especially if some of the changes that happen with the addition of Verdansk in Season 3 and their future roadmap to get things back without any influence from the other studios impacting the other parts of the game. I think that would be the best. The other option, which I hope they don't go down unless they really find a way to sell it, is doing another integration, which would be Warzone 3. The only way this works is if they're basically promising, we're just going to give you Warzone 1 with the dive or something like that. They would have to be very specific about their wording, and we wouldn't get this integration until 2026. And it would just be a mixed bag. It would be canceling out old gen because part of 2026, and the tweet that Ghost of Hope had was that essentially we would be removing old gen. And I think there was a tweet that just came out recently that half of all players still play on old gen on the platform, not necessarily Call of Duty, but just in general. But you could probably say that around the same thing, the same number exists for Warzone. So they would have to figure that part out, and there's no guarantee they could get it right. So I think this one's by far the riskiest one, because one, you'll cut off a certain percentage of the player base, not necessarily good, and then you could mess it up the same way you did Warzone 2, and then you end up having to do it all over again, which I don't think people will want to do that the second time around. They just won't. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? It would just be one of those types of things. And that would still get fully supported with seasons, and it would be synced up perfectly with the live service game, which is the one. But regardless of what they end up doing, I think obviously their main goal is, like what I referenced in the beginning, is they want to make money, which is fine. That's what businesses are supposed to do for their shareholders. And this is at the cost of player experience. As far as they can go to get people to spend money on the game, that's as far as they'll go. There's no metric for fun, so they can't go out of their way to improve that element, unfortunately. So there's certain things that just will never change, and then there's other things that can actually improve. Now, what I think is hopefully what ends up happening, there's basically a best case scenario, worst case scenario that happens with Season 3 Verdansk. So best case scenario is it probably won't be like the perfect scenario, right? It could be a little bit less than this. But I think Verdansk comes out, it ends up being a huge success. People realize it's way more than nostalgia, and they continue to support the game seasonally. And they know, hey, you know what? It works, and we're not going to do any more integrations. I think that would be best case scenario, kind of what I already referenced out of my 3 different options. I think it could go down. This would be good. And then we'd get like a good foundation, and then it can be in line with a lot of the other games that are on the market that have kind of been doing their tried and true thing, whether it's Fortnite, Apex Legends. There's always going to be some evolution with PUBG and any other game that's been out there for a long time. They do evolve their game over time. They don't need to make dramatic, like huge changes to game that overhaul the game and really change the experience. So they should avoid that. And I think then they can start building upon what works, what doesn't. They can experiment, keep something, take it away, the same way those games do. That's what I'd like to see. And then it's like good. The game can be fun, a lot of stuff that happens, and it just we know what the expectation is. We're not going to get surprised. Worst case scenario is Verdansk is a total flop. Whether the anti-cheat, the game's buggy, whatever, that'd be the worst case scenario. And in that case, it really doesn't matter what happens after that. In terms of content, I would just move on to a different game. There's plenty of games that I play that I could cover. I just happen to enjoy covering Call of Duty. But on an average week, I play 2 to 3 different games in it, like along with COD. So it's kind of one of those things. So hopefully that's not the case, because I would enjoy continuing making content and supporting Call of Duty if the game deserves being covered. But beyond that, if they're not going to support it properly, if they're not going to take care of the player base, and they're going to take care of trying to min-max shareholders' earnings over people's fun and enjoyment of the game, that's on them. Somebody will come in and take the place, I guess. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully guys are looking forward to it. I don't think they're going to shut down Warzone by any means, but we do got a couple options to see what happens with Verdansk when it comes to April 3rd. We'll see how that goes. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.